Welcome to For the Love of Books, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the North Lanarkshire Libraries podcast For the Love of Books. My name is Chris Wilson, the E-Services Librarian, and today I'm joined by two of our librarian team, Thomas Clark and Joanne McKeown. Thomas is at Coatbridge Library and Joanne is from Motherwell Library, and the reason why the two of them are with us is because they're the two newest members of our librarian team, and I thought I would torture them a little bit by dragging them onto the podcast. Thomas, you've already been on it before,
right.
But Joanne, this is your debut, and I will be gentle on you, Joanne. Don't worry about it.
Promises.
Yeah, we'll be as kind as possible. So thank you for joining me and taking part in this episode. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Now, first off, I thought we'd kind of find out a little bit more about you guys, and that's the kind of sort of theme behind this episode. Get to know your librarian really a little bit. And first off, I'll find out what wanted to ask you guys, what was the thing that inspired you guys to get involved in the library profession in the first place? So Thomas, what was the reason why you decided to get into library work in the past?
Well, I loved libraries as a kid. Like growing up, there was I grew up in Hamilton, and there was a library just around the corner, and around the other corner there was a football pitch, and that was where I spent most of my life in one day, two places or the other. So libraries were really important to me growing up, but it never occurred to me to actually work in one until I'd left uni, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I went and I worked on River City, the BBC soap opera.
Oh, really?
Aye. It just started up then, so I was there in the first year that it was running, and it wasn't really for me. I wasn't enjoying it that much. I couldn't see what was going to come of it. And there was a guy who was working in the script department he'd quit a library masters in order to go and work in River City. And it never occurred to me that there were such things as masters in library science, or that it was an actual profession. So I did the opposite. I quit River City to go and do my library degree, and I've never looked back since. I love working in libraries, and feel privileged to be part of such an important, something that's been important to me my whole life.
Brilliant. And so basically what you're saying is that from your childhood, you went to the library, you played football, and you weren't good enough to be a professional footballer, so you became a librarian instead. Is that where we're really going with that?
That's about the size here, Chris.
And Joanne, what was kind of your reason for getting into working in the library? So what was behind that?
For me, it was just a love of reading. I mean, I learned to read when I was about 3 or 4, and I was never without a book in my hand. I used to constantly have my mum going on at me, put that book down and go out and play like a normal child. I just loved reading. And then when I went to high school, I spent all my lunch times and break times in the school library. We had an absolutely brilliant librarian. She encouraged me to go for it, told me all about it. And I thought, what the heck? So I did. Even though my mum wasn't happy because she wanted me to go for something better paid. She wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah.
No, I love the books.
We aren't the best paid people in the whole entire world, but we're a passionate lot as librarians. We do feel very passionate about our job. And now both of you guys work in libraries that are quite a special place in my heart, because I've worked in both the libraries that you guys are currently working in at Coatbridge and Motherwell. What has been your experiences so far with working in those libraries, Joanne? What have you kind of experienced so far while working there?
I'm just absolutely loving it. It's great fun. Motherwell's been going through a lot of changes recently with a whole refurbishment and rewire, and there's still loads going on to redo the entire upstairs. I've just been spending my entire time trying to get things back to some semblance of normality, getting all our activities back up and running, just getting everything back to normal. We're now back to full opening hours in Motherwell again.
Yeah,
just
which
getting
is
everything
great.
Back. That's what I've spent my entire time doing. It's just been great fun.
Yeah, it's great that we've managed to get Motherwell Library back to kind of late nights and Saturdays and things like that, because that was something that a lot of people were crying out for. And it took a lot longer for us to get there with Motherwell, unfortunately, because of the works that were going on and things like that. So it is fantastic that we've managed to get to that point, and the library members in Motherwell can really fully enjoy the library again, and we're even getting the classes and things like that back there, like you say, and stuff like that. So it's fantastic to get that.
And it's all nice and shiny and new.
Yeah, I know. I haven't actually been over yet since it's kind of really reopened, so I'll need to kind of pop over and have a look about, see what it's like, and see all the fancy stuff that's happened since I was last there. Thomas, what about yourself? What about kind of Coatbridge? What kind of experiences so far working in Coatbridge?
Oh, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. It's been the folk here, both the staff and the customers are really friendly, really engaged people. There's I've been living away from the Lanarkshire area for a long time, so coming back's been a wee bit of a wake-up call in a lot of ways, but it's being back here and being back in the heart of things and being back in a place where libraries are really appreciated, and like the libraries are, there's a huge difference from authority to authority in terms of library provision and stuff. And here, you come into the library here and everything, all the newest books, big piles of them, everything that you're looking for, everything you could conceivably want to read is here. And unlike Joanne, I've not had to come here and set things up from scratch or to build up what's been notes done, because thanks partially to Joanne, who was here at Coatbridge before I came, thanks partially to Joanne and to the other members of staff, things have been running really well here. So I've just come into something that is already great, and I'm trying to find ways to help make it even better.
Yeah, and I really like the library in Coatbridge. It's kind of one of our fairly more newest libraries that we've got. I mean, in the McKeown Centre. And naturally, Motherwell and Coatbridge could be quite kind of more starkly different in terms of that, because it's a kind of more modern new library, whereas Motherwell's still in the old Carnegie building and very traditional. But both of them have got their sort of quirks and benefits of how they work and the kind of layouts and things like that sort of stuff. And so it's nice that we've kind of got kind of a bit of a mix of that throughout the kind of whole district, and different sort of more traditional old style libraries, buildings, and some more modern ones as well. So it's and they work wherever they are as well. So it's fantastic that we've got that. Thomas, you actually even highlighted some of the sort of CV things that you've had in the past before you joined us that are very interesting. I know that there's a couple of other ones that is quite interesting as well. That I didn't know, obviously, about the River City one, which is fantastic. But some of our younger readers might have seen that you mentioned on our library shelves already in the past, haven't they, Thomas?
They might well have done. I've been writing for a long time, and the things that I've been writing mostly, the things that certainly most folk have heard of, the Scots translations, kids' books that I write. I started off doing that maybe 5 years ago, and since then I've written 3 translations of Diary Olympic kid books. I've written a Peppa Pig book in Scots, and just last year I had a book. I had the first of the Lemony Snicket books come out in Scots, the Boggin Beginning. So I've been writing in Scots for a while, and I'm not going around the libraries checking to see if they've got my books, because I'm assuming I'm assuming they'll never be on the shelves. People will always be borrowing them.
Of course.
Aye. So no, I've been working in writing, and I've been, I love reading and writing in every capacity, and the more I can do, and the more I can do for a living, the better.
Yeah. What was the kind of sort of thinking behind how you got into the idea of translating books into Scots? Where did that inspiration come from to do that?
Well, before I came back, I'd been living in the Borders for a long time, and in the Borders, I don't know if you know, Chris, but in the Borders, Scots isn't seen as, it doesn't have the same social stigma that it sometimes does here in Lanarkshire. Here in Lanarkshire, everybody's got their phone voice, everybody's got their proper voice, and they've got their voice that they use at home. And in the Borders, it's not like that. Folk use Scots everywhere. They use it in the classroom, they use it when they go to the doctors, they use it in job interviews. Folk see Scots as being proper in a way that it doesn't always get seen here. And so that reconnected me with my Scots. And there's a publisher called Ichiku, who you'll know about, who've been doing mostly Roald Dahl translations into Scots for a while. And they approached me and said, would you fancy doing something? And I was working in a school library at that point, and the book that I really thought was crying out to be translated into Scots was Diary Olympic Kid, which I think the whole series of Diary Kid books are brilliant. And so that was the book that I started off translating. It worked really well. It got a lot of attention. There's a lot of folk in all over the world, not just Scotland, because you get expats all over the world who are interested in the Scots language. And it's just grown arms and legs for there, really.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing to hear about how you kind of get into that, and it's great to kind of have that in our libraries as well, and kind of keeping that kind of sort of Scots kind of language kind of sort of in the forefront a little bit and kind of promoting it as best we can and things like that.
Totally.
So it's great to have. And Joanne, as you're new to our librarian team, but as Thomas hinted to earlier, you're not necessarily new to the North Lanarkshire Libraries. You have been about a few of our libraries before in different roles. What sort of things have you done with us in the past?
I started off back in 2013 in Motherwell, funnily enough, in Log Into Learn as a library assistant. Then I did a brief stint in lending again in Motherwell. Then moved to Bells Hill as a supervisor. I also covered View Park for a year as a supervisor, once a fortnight. And I then moved to Coatbridge as a supervisor for a couple of years. Pre-lockdown, I went back to Motherwell again as a digital assistant, but that was obviously very short-lived for, obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Back to Coatbridge again, and then here I am now, back in Motherwell again.
I think you've travelled about the North Lanarkshire Library just about as much as I have. Probably I've kind of been around a few and worked on various ones as well. Some of which I know actually even longer here. My heart goes out to Whifflet Library, that used to be one of our libraries that I used to be a supervisor in at one point. And but I think that's one of the great things about working in libraries, whenever you do kind of get to work in lots of different ones within the district, because you get to see much different ways of working as well. Like the smaller branch libraries do work very differently from the kind of town centre libraries, and also you've, like you said, you've moved about different sort of roles and within the libraries as well, working with the kind of Log Into Learn team and working with lending, things like that sort of stuff. So it's fantastic to have that kind of different variety of tasks in your locker, as it were, and experiences and things like that for going forward. And it gives you a more rounded picture for when you become a part of the librarian team, I'm sure.
Yes.
Our team is split up into different themes, and our librarians do work in different responsibilities for different activities. What themes are you guys involved in for, and what sort of tasks and activities does that let you guys get involved in sorting out and things? Thomas, what role is what theme is it that your role kind of falls under?
Well, my role falls under digital, Chris, which obviously has been a massive thing for libraries for the last couple of years, as you'll know better than anybody. We've folk not been able to physically visit libraries. Like we have been having to find ways to reach out to folk, to provide content, to provide experiences that they can't get through coming to the library while the libraries were shut, or while they just didn't feel up to visiting the libraries, because a lot of people still don't. A lot of people still are a wee bit anxious about going out and being around other folk. So my side of things is about providing digital content, about providing ways to reach out to folk who aren't ready yet to come out to the physical library, and of course to encourage people to start thinking about coming into the physical library again. I see it as being providing access points for folk who maybe for one reason or another aren't using the physical library, but they value libraries nevertheless. That's what I see my role here as being.
Fantastic. And Joanne, you are under a different theme, aren't you, over at Motherwell?
Yeah. My theme is reader development, which the technical term is, it's about encouraging readers to expand their reading choices, share their experiences, and raising the status of reading as a creative activity. Fantastic. What that basically means is that we buy books which offer people different choices. We encourage people to read different things through the use of displays and merchandising. We run book groups. We take part in national promotions like Book Week Scotland, bringing people together, sharing the joy of reading. That's in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I think it's great that we've got kind of different themes involved and people focusing on those different themes to try and kind of really kind of bring them to the forefront of the service and give it a bit of focus and kind of make sure that each kind of really important area really gets a really kind of proper focus and gets a good look at and can brought to the forefront within our service. Now, I thought that I would. That's us done the kind of more official part of the podcast. I thought we would kind of get to know you guys a little bit more on a slightly more personal level, I think, and find out a little bit more about what you guys like, what you guys do when you're reading and things like that sort of stuff. So, and don't be too scared. I'll go gently on you guys, so don't be too worried about it. And what I thought I'd start off with a nice easy one is there a book that really set you off on the path of loving reading and potentially getting into kind of working in libraries? So, Joanne, what was kind of started off your love of reading?
I've mentioned this one before on World Book Night. It was Walk Through Cold Fire by Sin Forshay Lunsford. Book full of teenage angst and emotion. I've read it many times when I was young and sobbed my way through it every single time. The author, it was her debut novel, and she was only 17 or 18 when she wrote it, so you could really believe in the characters.
Right.
And I actually loaned it to everybody I know at the time. Whether I would still feel the same way now if I read it, I'm not quite so sure.
Do you still have a copy of it? No.
I do have a copy somewhere, but I moved house last year and I can't find it.
Oh, it's gone missing.
Because I was thinking about that.
It would be interesting to kind of see because there are books out there that I think can catch your eye and things like that. Stuff that people do say that if you read it at different kind of ages that you get something completely different out of it. So it'd be interesting to see if you did kind of have a different kind of feeling towards it now that you're kind of.
I'd be very interested to read it now as a parent.
Yeah.
You know, to see from the other side of the coin.
Yeah. That would give a different perspective on it and see what you thought of it. If you do find your copy of it, you will have to kind of come back on the podcast at some point and let us know what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thomas, what about yourself? Is there a particular book you remember kind of really started off your love of reading?
Well, I suppose Roald Dahl in general was my entry point to reading. The first book I remember reading on my own, the first proper book anyways, was Fantastic Mr. Fox. But Matilda was the one that really got me into reading. And I should say, by the way, both these books are also available in Scots. No by me, so I'm not personally profiting for this. They're both available in Scots. Brilliant translations by James Robertson and Anne Donovan. But Matilda in particular, because obviously Matilda's about 100 things, and I was kind of half watching the film when I was up at my mum's for Christmas there last year, and I'd forgot how much what happens in Matilda, like, you know, the whole subplot where being able to move things with her mind and that, because all these things were actually less important and less interesting to me than the fact that she gets into reading, and that her library is like her place, the way she escapes for the things in her life that aren't so great, her family and her and the rest of it. So that really inspired me as a kid, reading about Matilda challenging herself, because there's a big bit about where Matilda moves on for reading certain kinds of books and she starts reading more and more complicated books. She starts reading classics. There's a wee list of all the books tested at Bills and that she reads. And that really reinforced to me how important libraries were, not just to me, but to everybody who uses them. And Matilda's something I come back to, and I don't think, even the last time I read it was in Scots, and that was a few years ago, but I don't think it loses anything over the years. I don't think you come back to it and you're like, oh, no, this is different from what I thought it was. I think it's just as good now as it ever was.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things about the Roald Dahl books. I think they are quite kind of classic and timeless, really. They kind of, you still have that kind of same kind of feeling of kind of excitement and adventure, no matter what time you kind of read them at, which is maybe why they are so highly regarded as classic kind of children's books, I suppose. Now, the next question is a biggie, right? This is a very important question. Now, do you use a bookmark or do you fold the pages as your bookmark? Joanne, confession time, do you fold pages?
Absolutely not. That is one of my pet hates. That said, I don't actually use a bookmark either. I use whatever I have to hand. You'll find anything in my books.
I tend to use an old photograph, I have to admit. Not an old photograph, but just a photograph as my bookmark. So that's what I tend to use.
Speaking of which, Chris, if anyone has lost any photographs, there's a good chance we found them in some of our library books. So it will happen.
Lost and found, yeah. Thomas, what about you? Please don't tell me you fold pages.
I'm not a page folder. But like yous, I don't tend to have actual bookmarks. My thing is, I read a lot on the train, and so most of my books have got train tickets in them instead of bookmarks, and that's kind of a fun wee thing as well, because you revisit a book and you find a train ticket, and you're like, what was I doing in Perth that day? What was I doing? The book becomes not just that it's something that you read, but it becomes a part of your past in a way. And so but no folding corners for me. No, it just working in a school library, you see everything that can possibly be done to maltreat a book, and you just never get it. You never get used to it.
That is one of the interesting things I think about working in libraries. You do see a variety of bookmarks that are kind of left, or things used as bookmarks left in books sometimes whenever they're handed back, and they can vary dramatically from photographs to tickets to other more
Postcards. It's got a
Well,
lot of
yeah,
postcards.
postcards is another good one. But I do kind of vaguely remember. I don't know if it's one of those kind of myth things or whether it's like it actually happened or not. But I do remember kind of something about somebody leaving a bit of bacon in a book at one point and stuff like that, which is just bizarre and just weird. And don't do that, folks. If you're listening, don't leave things like bits of bacon in the books. But yeah, so that's good to know. I did actually have a bit of a follow-up to this one as well, which is a bit of catching you guys off guard. I have passed on a few other questions to you, but it's related. It's cracking spines. Are you a spine cracker in the book, or do you try and keep them nice and intact? Joanne?
I try and keep them nice and intact. It pains me.
Thomas, what about yourself?
Absolutely same. I can't stand to see people. I don't know if you've seen, but on Twitter, there's somebody who's posted up that they've cut thick books in two, like, you know.
Oh yeah, I have seen that.
And I'm just like, no, I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
That gives me the absolute fear of seeing that one. I have seen what you're talking about on Twitter before, and my goodness, that is like the worst thing I have ever seen. How dare they do that to a book?
Why would you? Why would you?
No, if it's too heavy for you, just don't read it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, next question is: do you have a preference over whether you read a traditional kind of paper book, or do you like ebooks? And I am the E-Services Librarian here, so you may potentially break my heart here a little bit with this answer. But Joanne, what's your preference?
I have to confess, I am an ebook reader. The convenience of being able to pull out your phone at any time and just start reading, and then when I finish something, I don't need to pre-plan. I just jump onto BorrowBox and borrow something else. So much easier.
Nice plug there for BorrowBox. Well done.
So.
And Thomas, what about yourself?
Like a lot of librarians, I felt really hostile towards ebooks when they first became a thing, and I thought, oh well, no, this is me out of a job as a librarian, as a writer, as everything. I'm going to be, you know, living on the streets because of these things. So I've always felt really protective of physical books, and I think physical books are brilliant on a number of levels, just like we were talking about how they can represent periods of your past. How I remember at uni there was an English lecturer who used to give a lecture specifically on the idea of books as furniture, and obviously, you know, we work in places where books are furniture, and there's no better furniture than a physical book. But I do now see the appeal of ebooks, and I particularly see the appeal, just like Joanne was saying, actually, I see the appeal of being able to carry a book with you, 1,000 books or whatever, and no need to bring a big wheelbarrow with you wherever you go. It's brilliant to be able to carry more than one book with you. If you're no fancy this, on the train or on holiday or whatever, you change to the next gin, or through BorrowBox you borrow another gin. I do see the appeal of ebooks, and I certainly think there's a place for both physical and ebooks in the world of libraries.
Fantastic. I do, although I am the E-Services Librarian, and I do champion ebooks as much as possible, and e-audiobooks, I have to add, and e-magazines. But I do have an appreciation for both as well. I think if you are a kind of lover of books, I think whenever it comes to like the books that I really, really love, I do like to have a paper copy of it, I have to admit. I am a bit of a book hoarder, and I do kind of buy the books that I really, really love, and I do need to have a paper copy of them. But the kind of the brilliance of something like BorrowBox, where you can kind of download and get access to thousands of books and stuff like that, and at the touch of a button on your iPad or your phone or whatever, is fantastic, and so much more convenient whenever you go on holiday as well, because waits on airplanes and things like that. Books do weigh a little bit of weight, so it's much easier to have it on your phone. So
like you say, Chris, if you love books, then you're always collecting them, and no always have got infinite physical space. So if you can collect a few physical books but a load of ebooks, then it just makes things that much easier in terms of finding space in your house for them.
It does. I do. At home, I am tripping over books a little bit at the moment, and it pains me to think of what I could possibly have to do to some of them. But But well, it's I suppose a forever problem for book lovers of finding spots to put the books away in your home. But yeah, so next question is, what is your favourite book of all time? Nice easy one. Does it differ a little bit from the one that's kind of one that kicked off your love of reading, I wonder? So Joanne, what is your favourite book of all time?
Now this is a very tough question. There's just so many books out there to love, and I find it quite difficult not to find something to love about a book of some kind. Although I'm going to be a wee bit controversial here and tell you one that I don't like, which you've not long finished reading, Chris, Shuggy Bain.
Well, I've not actually finished reading it yet. I have to admit, I'm still kind of in the middle of reading it, but
I gave up on it.
Really? Do you know that you're the first person that's actually told me that? So that's interesting. So what was your reasons? What did you think?
Too depressing for words. I just couldn't cope. I was like, this is just not. I tend to read nowadays to be cheered up. So reading something like that just brings me down, and I think I don't have energy for this.
So, but do you have a favourite one you want to mention as well, though?
I think I'd have to stick with the one that I mentioned earlier.
Right.
Walk Through Cold Fire.
Fantastic.
I really need to find that copy.
We really do. Because I think we tried to kind of, for the World Book Night thing, I think we tried to kind of see if we could see it then, and we couldn't find one to get a photo of it, things like that.
Out of print.
If I remember. Yeah. Thomas, what about yourself? Do you have a favourite book?
Aye, my favourite book is Invisible Cities by an Italian author called Italo Calvino, and it's kind of magic realism, and it's about Kubla Khan and Marco Polo meeting up, and Marco Polo nobody only speak Kubla Khan's language, and Kubla Khan nobody only speak Marco Polo's language, and Marco Polo, every chapter is Marco Polo trying to describe a city that he's been to without using language. To Kubla Khan, he'll set out chessboards, or basically it's every chapter is a wee segment where Marco Polo tries to describe these fantastical cities that couldn't exist in real life. And it's not a long book, and like I say, I spend a lot of time reading books on trains. And when I was working at River City, funnily enough, I had a long train journey to Dumbarton every day, and I used to read. I must have read Invisible Cities like once a week, once a month, for the whole time I was working it, because it was just long enough to read on that train journey, and it made the whole thing bearable, both the train journey and working at River City. It's an absolutely gorgeous book, and that was 20 years ago that I read it for the first time, and I've still not read anything that beats it. I love all Italo Calvino's books, don't get me wrong, but Invisible Cities, if you've not read it, takes an hour, maybe 2 hours out of your day, change your life.
Fantastic. And the next one is, what are you reading right now? So what has you got you turning the pages of the book you're reading right now? So Thomas, what are you reading at the moment?
Well, I've been getting into. You get into the periods where there's an author that you can't stop reading. You read their first book and you're like, right, I'm going to read everything by this person forever. And I've been going through that with Christopher Isherwood. I read the Berlin stories at the start of this year. You maybe know that the Berlin stories are the stories that Cabaret, the film, was based on. And I've been meaning to read them for a while, and that's since then, every time I pick up a book by somebody other than Christopher Isherwood, I'll get a couple of chapters in, and I'm like, no, wait, I'm going to go read that Christopher Isherwood book. So right now I'm reading Lines and Shadows, which is his thinly veiled autobiography of him being at Cambridge and the poets and the writers who he knew back then. I can't put down Christopher Isherwood right now. There's a lot of him, and I can't see me stopping until I've read them all, which could take the rest of this year. But start with, if anybody's interested in Christopher Isherwood and isn't sure, honestly, start with Berlin stories, kick on for there, and that'll be you entertained for the rest of the year. You'll no need Netflix, you'll no need Disney Plus. You'll get on fine just for these books.
Fantastic. And Joanne, what are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading Hyde by Craig Russell. The reason I'm reading it is because it's my book group book for this month. It's based in Victorian England, and it's a take on the age-old Jekyll and Hyde story. And it begins with Hyde recounting his story to Robert Louis Stevenson. I'm not that far into it yet, so can't tell you too much, but it's something a wee bit different. That's what I was going for when I picked it, because it's a crime book group I take, and I feel as if it's the same stuff all the time. And I thought, well, that's a wee bit different. So
Yeah,
so
it's a
far,
little
so
bit.
good.
It's a little bit off the beaten track of the kind of like crime fiction by numbers type thing.
Aye, right.
Yeah, fantastic, brilliant. So that's got some good kind of book recommendations, and that our listeners can kind of get stuck into as well. I thought I'd round off my questions with you guys by asking you, what has been your most favourite experience so far of being a librarian? So Joanne, what has been your kind of, or working in a library in general? So what has your been your most favourite experience so far, do you think?
I think the favourite thing I've done was running code clubs.
Yeah.
See, getting a group of kids, and there's always one who is really quiet and shy and doesn't like to get involved, and by the end of it, they're wild. It's just amazing to see how they come on and come out themselves and get involved. It's great fun. I love doing things like that.
Fantastic. And Thomas, what about yourself? What's kind of been your favourite thing so far?
Kind of the same. Like, I've been working in school libraries for a long time before I came here, and working with kids is, it's really restorative, and it just replenishes your spirit. It's a brilliant thing to do. And one of the I've never done code clubs, unlike Joanne, but one of the things that I always really loved about working in the school library and about working in libraries generally is when you get a quiet kid who comes in and they think they're the only person in the world that's interested in X, and they'll come in and they'll say, oh, have you got any books about, have you got this or that? Have you got books about Vikings? Have you got books about Greeks? Have you got any Attack on Titan? Manga's a big, they'll always come in and be like, oh, have you got Attack on Titan? And they're so delighted when not only have you got Attack on Titan, but you've read it and you know what it is, and they're not the only person in the world that likes Attack on Titan. And suddenly this kid had nothing to say for themselves 30 seconds ago, they'll just talk for hours about Attack on Titan or Vikings or whatever it is they happen to be interested in. And the libraries provide that connection for folk, and it's an especially important connection for younger folk. It's a connection to other people who are like them, and a reminder that they're not the only person in the world that is into X, Y, or Z, be it history, be it coding, be it Minecraft, be it Japanese manga. It's that, and that I never stopped getting a thrill for that. I hadn't yet, and I don't think I ever will.
Yeah, I do think that children in the library is a kind of special thing, and it does kind of allow for special experiences and things like that as well. I was trying to think about my own whenever I was thinking about this question, and whenever I was basically doing the job you're currently doing, Joanne, I had quite a few kind of class experiences and things like that were really, really fun, and just you had that kind of like say the excitement and things that the kids do, and then and actually one of the classes actually sent me a card afterwards and what like as a thanks and things like that, and I've still got the card to this day. The old soppy romantic that I am, we kept it, and we also at one point we had a reader in residence, Jane Graham, who'd organised a fantastic day at Motherwell Library, and they had got a lot of the Christmas books that were coming out just before Christmas to be brought to the library, and basically we had a class come along, and it was like they were basically reviewing the kind of Christmas books that were coming out for an issue of the big issue that was happening, and so they got to kind of flick through them all, and at the end of it they got to keep a book, and it was like they actually got to keep the book because it wasn't an actual library book, it was a kind of promotional one from the big issue that supplied them. And it was just great for like an hour of having a whole class of kids running about grabbing different books, having a look at them, reading through them, and just the general excitement in the library was fantastic. And I think probably most librarians have some kind of experience, something kind of similar to that, where they've had a great experience with a kids group or a kind of class or whatever. And it's definitely kind of a nice thing to witness in the library and see that excitement, and hopefully the love of reading can be kind of instilled in the sort of new generation of kids that are coming through. So that's fantastic. So, but that's your question again, all done, guys. So you've managed to survive. So thank you very much for taking part, and I hope our listeners got a little bit out of that and kind of got to know you guys a little bit better as well, and kind of relate to you guys a little bit better whenever they come across to any of the groups and things like that you guys are running in our libraries in the future. So thank you for that. A few little updates on our service before we finish up. Let's Go Summer is underway, and we have got lots and lots of fantastic summer activities going throughout all our libraries throughout summer for the kids to get involved in. You can check them out on our website if you go to www.culturenail.co.uk and check out the Let's Go Summer pages, and you'll find out all the events that are happening. We have got some fantastic events, including some kind of digital themed ones as well, which is fantastic, by the Login to Learn team, and they are all fantastic. And we have also still got the World Poetry Day competition, National Poetry Day competition running, which was launched on World Poetry Day earlier in the year, where you can get your poem published on Box, and Thomas and I will be selecting or helping to select the poems that will go into that collection later in the year, and it will go live on National Poetry Day for everyone in North Lanarkshire to have a read at, and so you can get your poem published and read by the rest of the library service if you want to get involved in that. And you can find out more about that at www.culturenail.co.uk/poetry competition, and it's got all the details there for that to do as well. And the other big thing that is finally underway this summer is the Summer Reading Challenge. Everybody loves the Summer Reading Challenge, and kids love it. And it's great to kind of get them involved in summer reading throughout the summer holidays. It gives them the chance to come into the library, pick some books, read and get prizes, and who doesn't like that? And at the end, if they get to the end of the challenge, they get a medal and a certificate. So it's a win for everyone involved, and it's really, really good. And yeah, it's all up and running now, and the theme this year is Gadgeteers, I think, if that's right. And you can sign up for it in your local library. So do go along and find out all about it and sign up and take part. And so that'd be fantastic. This is the final episode of the current season of the podcast, but we will be back very soon. So don't worry, we won't be leaving you hanging for too long. We hope you've enjoyed this run of episodes. And if you want to leave us a little bit of feedback on the podcast, you can do by using the hashtag FLB podcast, or by dropping us an email to librarypodcast@northland.gov.uk. But that's all for us for now, guys. Thank you very much for listening, and we will be back with a new season very, very soon. Bye, guys.